Hi everyone, welcome back to another Reddit cheating story. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and notification bell if you love to watch more cheating stories. If you want to know how to get back your ex-girlfriend and boyfriend, click the link below.
My mother's infidelity tore my family apart. I am a 21-year-old boy who grew up in a friendly, loving family with no signs of discontent or sadness. However, my mother, 50F, was caught having an affair with her high school boyfriend by my father, 54 meters, in August of 2020. He divorced his wife 2 weeks later. They notified my little sister about the divorce on the way to her first year of college on August 18th, and I found out a few hours later at home. I started my second year of college 2 days later. The entire situation was highly stressful, as I only had a few days to comprehend everything before leaving my 17-year-old childhood home for good. They sold the house at the end of September, and I'm not planning on returning. Since August 19, 2020, my sister has not spoken to my mother. My father went to the town where I live for college in the months following the divorce, and I moved in with him. Some may find this unusual, but my father and I have always been incredibly close, so it seemed like the natural choice for our needs. I'm pretty grateful that everything turned out as it did. He has made a remarkable recovery and appears satisfied with his life today. My father and I are closer than we've ever been, and I do not doubt that this will continue. A couple of times a week, we go skiing or biking together. In the meantime, I've been working extremely hard to rebuild my relationship with my mother. For the first few months, I would only contact her to talk about the affair, and I would rage at her and ask her difficult questions about why she tore our lives apart, such as, "What did you think would happen?" On the other hand, my mother is a quiet and reserved individual who has a solid inclination to portray herself as the victim in any conflict, which has been highly stressful to me both then and now. In response to my attempts at closure or just honest conversation, she always says, "It doesn't matter. It already occurred." My mother will say, "Oh, so it's all my fault then, isn't it? I guess I should just go away forever since nobody cares about me," when I mention my sister and how she's still hurting from it all. You can't comprehend and heal from an affair and divorce when the person you need to mend reacts in this manner. In these chats, I'm constantly carrying the majority of the weight and doing all of the talking, and she goes along with it. I'm still not sure why my mother chose to cheat on my father, and the news of my family's separation stunned and grieved all of our friends and extended family since my parents never argued, never had any troubles, and seemed like an immaculate family to those on the inside and out. I say this to emphasize how taken aback we were by what happened. I still phone my mother once or twice a week, and we usually talk about topics other than the horrible events that occurred in our lives. During this time, I was also undergoing school-based therapy, where I learned a lot about myself, including that I am on the autism spectrum. I also acquired mindfulness techniques and became less reliant on the why behind my mother's actions. As a result, my connection with my mother has improved in certain aspects. My mental health and capacity to manage my trauma and newly revealed ASD improved dramatically, at the very least. When I graduated in June of 2021, I stopped going to therapy. My mother called in May of 2021 to tell me that she had decided to give away my 2 childhood pets to a family we had never met. This was, of course, a devastating blow to my already poor relationship with my mother. I could have taken them and brought them here. My family lived in Texas, but I now live in Colorado. But it would have had a significant influence on the lifestyle I'd fought so hard to acquire. I believed, and still believe, that she should face the burden of caring for the dogs because she was the one who tore down their home in the first place. She would never say it to me, but she gave them away since she had moved to a good apartment in an upmarket part of town and was unwilling to move to a place with a backyard, even though she could afford it. Her apartment surroundings understandably stressed our dogs because they are very high maintenance and had spent their entire lives with easy access to a backyard. Last summer, I went to meet them in their new home for the first time, and it was a challenging experience for me. Although I was delighted to see them, I was mortified to see them displaced from their natural habitat. I'm writing now because, while my relationship with my mother has improved slightly over the last year and a half, I still don't feel like I've fully processed the trauma I experienced. My mother seems content with avoiding the difficult conversations we'd both need to have to heal our relationship truly. When I bring up painful truths or ask her challenging questions, she frames everything as if she is the victim of some great injustice, gaslights me about what happened, her role in it, or the validity of my sentiments toward her. I still love my mother and want to have a good connection with her, but she doesn't seem to understand that I can't just bury my sentiments and pretend to trust and respect her again. First, she wrecked everything important to me. And then, once everything had been broken beyond repair, she trashed the one item that was still pure and untouched by the affair, my childhood pets. I'm overcome with grief for the deaths of my family, the mother I knew, the dogs, my home, and my previous life, among other things. I have nightmares about individuals I care about betraying me. Because I refuse to accept that she is a nasty person, I travel down long mental trails of rumination and exhaust myself to figure out why she did this to us. I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I also struggle with emotions of hatred against women. I'm frightened that because of my Asperger's and my family trauma, I'll never be able to have a healthy love relationship or a family of my own. In conclusion, despite treatment and continuous communication with my mother, I still don't feel like I've fully recovered from this. The openness and trust that I require from my mother appear to be hard to obtain. I'm never sure if keeping my contact with my mother is worthwhile. What are your thoughts on this? Is it reasonable for me to be so angry and conflicted? Would you have ever given your mother a chance if you were me? What tactics would you employ to help your parent create a new, healthy relationship? I adore her and want to be close to her again somehow, but I sometimes believe that's an unattainable desire. Here is the most excellent advice for this beautiful article that I gathered. I'd make it plain that you'll only speak with her via email until she finds therapy. Then, she must accept responsibility for her conduct. Instead, she downplayed them and ran away. I believe you are squandering your time with your mom. Right, you recognize your mother as the source of your anti-woman feelings. When everything else is taken into account. Your mother has a severe mental illness. She is incapable of empathizing with her acts. That is demonstrated by your complete lack of touch when giving away your dogs. Your mother has a narcissistic personality. Your father is better off now that she isn't in her life. Your sister is as well. And you will, too, one day when you realize that nothing you do counts. Your mother will be alone when she passes away. Her app will forsake her one day, as this kind of relationship inevitably does. And she'll continue to believe she is the victim. She is a controlling parent. Much of the abuse you never realized was likely kept from you by your father. Look up some information about abusive parents. Take a look at the subreddits dedicated to harsh parents. It would help if you accepted that you no longer recognize her. You are the only one who is making every attempt to mend the connection. That isn't how healthy relationships function. To create trust and affection, both sides must work hard. She should be prepared to go to any length to save what she can of your relationship, but she's treating it like a chore. On the surface, my mother appeared to be a perfect mom, but I eventually discovered via counseling as an adult that she is toxic and unstable. It took me 25 years to find this, and that was with the help of counseling. I'd take a break from your mother. For a few months or years, perhaps. Never, ever, 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 ever. Concentrate on yourself and get to where you want to be. Then, when you're ready, reach out once more. You don't have to ignore her, but I wouldn't put in any effort right now to repair the friendship. It appears that she doesn't even think she did anything wrong. You've honestly stated your sentiments and experiences so effectively in this piece. Part of me feels you should email her this post, or at the very least a little altered version of it. But, a part of me believes that your mother, who you claim minimizes things and makes herself the victim, is she a narc? Would read it and figure out how to reintroduce you into her life while avoiding any real progress. You maintain that you do not believe your mother is a nasty person. The truth is that no one is either nice or downright terrible. Because we're all gray, the best we can do is pass judgment on others' acts. So far, your mother's efforts have been to deny responsibility for the harm she has caused. She'll almost certainly want to sweep this under the rug and resume your relationship as normal if you let her. You appear to be the only one in your family who does not hold her accountable. She continues to overlook what you need to heal, and you continue to talk to her. You can't make someone feel what they don't want to feel. You can't make people feel sorry or apologetic. I'd suggest doing what you need to recover independently, taking some time away from her, and then returning when you're in a better place. Talking to her now only seems to make you feel worse. Another story of cheating. From someone who has done it. White trickle truthing isn't going to work with moving on in a relationship. So, I'm sure I'll get some flack for this, but when I was around 26 to 27 years old, and my current fiancé and I had been dating for 5 to 6 years, he had an affair. And I decided that if fixing things was the essential thing in the world to him, I would do so. Things did work out after 4 or so years, and I feel they will continue to work out. It's not just working out that makes me happy. It's crazy how glad I am in my relationship, which has been reconstructed with the help of numerous therapists and excellent chemistry, to begin with. I don't think that's how it always happens, and it was shocking, but that was and is my experience, and I have no regrets, even if unfaithfulness will always affect me as a person, so I wish it hadn't happened. And I believe that, in terms of us, I am past it now that we have a long-term relationship. But, based on a post I saw the other day about a wife or fiancé who refused to inform her boyfriend who her app was, I'd been thinking a lot. I kept wondering why that mattered. I knew it did, but I couldn't explain why. Today I've realized something. I know many people dislike Esther Perel, but she was pretty beneficial to us, in addition to a ton of counseling, and she said something powerful in one of her presentations. It went something like this: your relationship has come to an end. Now it's up to you to decide whether you want to make a new one. As difficult as it may be, you must accept that your life as you knew it ended because it would never work if either of you had an affair. You must rebuild a new relationship from the ground up, and you may be able to use some memories as building bricks, but not the way things were before. It was practically impossible not to be back there at D-Day every time I learned something new, whether it was something kept from me or not. No matter how insignificant, every further information was simply a different perspective on the same heinous atrocity. There was some trickle truth with us at first as we reformed, but thankfully, at some point, my partner recognized that if this was indeed what he desired, every painful fact had to come out to prevent us from going back to square one. It would be so upsetting if I discovered a new detail now, years later, and I honestly don't think I could move past it without going back to square one. Even if it happened years ago, it's a new betrayal. So, I guess what I'm saying is that if you decide to try to repair your relationship, your partner must tell you everything you need to know or possibly find out. If that doesn't happen, I don't think the relationship will ever work, and only in specific situations, even if it does. So, if your partner is trying to rebuild a relationship with you, explain this to them, so they understand that the details will hurt like hell in the short term but will give you an only chance at anything further. However, if they're still not putting everything out there so you can do that, they're saying, this isn't my priority. It won't work. I spent a lot of time thinking about why it was so important because I wasn't sure why it was so significant other that it was vital, and this is why. I understand why most people don't want to be rebuilt, and I believe that even if they try, it won't succeed for many of them. But I'm hoping that this will be of assistance to everyone. It's difficult to understand why it matters, but it will tear your heart every time a new detail is revealed, and whatever progress you've made in rebuilding will be undone. So, no, if someone refuses to tell you everything because they don't want to hurt you, don't believe them. This isn't acceptable. That is why it is significant. Here is the most fantastic advice for this beautiful article that I gathered. Esther Perel is infected with cancer. The only things she has going for her are small words like what you said. No one will condemn you for staying. It's your choice, and you're content with it. That is what is essential. I also understand what you mean by oop. She doesn't want to inform her cousin's cousin. Her justification was that she was afraid that her husband might become physically involved with app. I hope your WP apologizes profusely and never hurts you again. Best of luck, op. I can't speak for everyone, but your experience is unquestionably true. It's yours, and I understand your want to share it with the rest of us. We all have times when we feel the urge to talk, and it feels so much better when we do. It's just that no one here has ever suggested that trickle truth would be a good idea. It's a disaster. It shatters all faith and crushes it down to dust, which can hold nothing. Yes, it's stated briefly in this EP statement, but even a blind hen can discover a grain of corn once and then. You raise some excellent points. If a disloyal spouse refuses to give the app's identity, it suggests they are safeguarding the app, who is more important to them than you. It's time to get moving. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Please tell me what you think. Don't forget to subscribe and press the notification button. Keep an eye out for more cheat